Hello, I'm so glad that you could join us. My name is Sarah Kimmel. I'm the VP of Research here at Reworked. And with me today is Gregg Apirian, who is the VP of Customer Experience at Corbett. And Gregg, I'm hoping that you can tell everyone a little bit about your organization and where it sits in the constellation of digital workplace tools and services.
Thanks for having me again here, Sarah. So Corbett is what we now have repositioned ourselves as a workplace experience platform. The heritage of the company used to be called RMG Networks, and for many years was a leader in the digital signage world, and we still are. However, over the past few years, we have further developed the product. So going beyond just the broadcasting of signage and taking signage to the next level of capability, we have also created a mobile app, a web browser based version, desktop application, and other methods in which to reach employees. So the context of workplace experience really comes down to meet the employee where they're at and using our platform as a content management system to create and publish and measure communications across the business.
Right. Workplace communications have been pretty critical lately. They've been critical as organizations face the pandemic, remote working. What were the workplace communication challenges for your customers during the pandemic and during this broad switch to remote working?
It's funny because, and in some cases, not funny because the problem prior to the pandemic is still the problem that's here today. The customer and their readiness for this transformation. So, if I always like to show the analogy of marketing, many years ago, marketing made the jump to technology, is data driven, and has really used all of that to build a larger team to sort of almost predict where the customer is, what the customer needs, and be able to sort of deliver that or optimize that. And communications in most organizations have been very behind from this. So when you look at the average customer that we work with, email is their primary form of communication, but most are not using email platforms. So they're sending them little tiny bit of distribution list and targeting, if you will, but they don't even know if they're being received, right, or reached or open. And on the other side of it, they're using outdated intranets, and they bring the same challenges with lack of targeting, personalization, and ultimately measurement around that. And then if you do find any organizations that are using other tools, they're more of those digital workplace tools, right? So just ultimately the platforms, the systems, the services that everyone is using. So I think the opportunity became for those that were already sort of using more modern technology like Corbett, it was how do you bring that all together? For those that weren't using it, the pandemic just simply accelerated the need for this. So in some ways it was good because it brought this tool set to them so they could, align, bring their stakeholders together, make their ROI case and purchase this much faster than they normally would have prior to that. But I think the challenge is still interesting in that the modern day communicator, in terms of where they should be, like the marketer, that skill set, that capability wasn't quite there. And now they're just beginning that transformation.
Right. So it was the it was a difference of degree rather than a difference of kind for the customers for Corbett.
Uh, for the most part, yes, right? Because if you start using these tools, right, so great that you bought something that can do targeting and now personalize the experience, but have you segmented, your audience of employees, and do you have the data in your HR system to enable that type of targeting? And that list goes on. So it's this process of you could immediately start communicating, but to take full advantage of a platform like this, there's a lot of work and alignment to get there, and that is the hill they're all climbing right now.
Right. I mean, it's certainly something that we saw in our own state of the digital workplace research that those organizations that were well positioned with their infrastructure fared a lot better during the transformation than those that maybe hadn't made those investments, and that everyone's sort of playing catch up at the moment
That's right.
to get to the level of capability that they need. Um, So, what were the challenges that Corbett faced? Obviously, there was a big change in demand And here we all are, in the same situation as customers and clients, all of us working from home. What's been the experience for Corbett?
So I think that this certainly has been, while a challenging year, a great year in that a lot more customers that were existing customers who were just using signage now moved to using mobile and other areas of the platform. New customers coming in are sort of, looking at it all as well too. So I think that the challenge for our organization was we got dispersed. Most people were in Dallas, Texas. I'm in Los Angeles now. People are all over the place, which seems to be the way the world was going anyway. But our infrastructure, right? We were highly technical, so we had a lot of the tools, but putting process and governance to those tools and enabling people, right, with what they needed was one of our key focuses. And as we preach to our customers and coach them around both a feature set and services to enable best practice communication, we had to do it for ourselves, right? So we weren't using our mobile app for our own internal purposes. Now we are. So I think there's a lot to learn in what we're doing for the customer. You have to stop and think, and you got to sort of do that for yourself as well too. And in that you have successes, and in that you have key learnings of how to optimize that too. So, really changing the culture in a way, making it feel more open, and everyone has a voice, right? A voice to communicate, a voice to share feedback. I think we all became much closer and collaborative and worked a lot better. And the results were greater for our customers because we grew tremendously this year.
Right. Interesting that you put it that way. One of the most interesting things we did a COVID update to our state of the digital workplace study, and we found that literally the only challenge that went down during the pandemic was the ability to collaborate cross-functionally. The crisis kind of brought everyone together and put everyone on the same page, oriented in the same direction, to solve the problems in front of us. What do you think is coming next? What trends do you see among your customers? What problems are they looking to solve for next now that the initial crisis has been confronted?
I think the biggest trend and problem, which again has been one for quite some time, but is now accelerated in thinking about solving it, is reach. So let's say you're a company that has 15,000 employees, and that 10,000 of them have email addresses and or SSO access, but that 5,000 on the front line don't. Traditionally, communicators would say, "We'll get to them one day." Maybe their managers will huddle with them if we're lucky. But now it's not about them anymore. It's about how do you reach everyone, right? So, are there enough what we call endpoints across the business? So whether that be signage screens, mobile app access, desktop access, integrations with other systems and services, so that everyone has a way to sort of either be reached and consume content, data, information, and also serve it up themselves and share it with others. So I think that's probably the biggest trend that I'm seeing. But on the other side of that, as they get a handle on communications, now this digital workplace concept has come into play, right? And almost every customer in some high form of IT has a digital workplace initiative going on. So as they look at all the common set of tools and services used across the company, data used across the company, how do you standardize that, right? And how do you sort of give people access to that, whether it be through a kiosk, your desktop, the mobile app again? So any way that you can access through a screen, how can you get that personalized experience? So those employees in that example who didn't have SSO or some form of authentication to get personalization, how do you solve that? There are other methods of authentication, right? There are policies that need to change. For example, maybe manufacturing people on the front line, that company doesn't want to enable them with mobile app because they're hourly workers, but that's just a policy. That's a company point of view. There is some legality to it, but it can be resolved. Others have done it. So if you want to reach everyone, you got to have at least one or more devices, and then if you want to personalize it, you have to give them options on how you do that.
That certainly jives with what we're hearing through our own research. Is organizations have made that first turn. They really kind of jumped in and solved all of they've dealt with the low hanging fruit, and now it's how do I get everything integrated? How do I get a strategy together that helps us long term? How do I make all of these technologies work together in a way that's more harmonious and produces the results for the organization that we're looking for? Thank you so much, Gregg, for joining me today to tell us a little bit about Corbett and a little bit about what you're seeing in the industry. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you too, Sarah. Glad to be part of this.
Thanks.